you had talked elsewhere about reading The Poet by Michael Connolly and how that transformed your love of reading, got you reinvigorated a bit. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did touch on that I was a reluctant reader as a kid, and that went on through even through that English major. You know, it was tough for me to read a lot of the books. And when I took a Shakespeare class, and I was lucky, I was able to get the PBS videos of them and watch them on VHS in the university library. Because for Shakespeare is very difficult for me to read, and watching it is a whole different experience and a much easier way for me to understand it. But my reluctancy of reading wasn't limited to Shakespeare. It really went on. And then I was reading more industry and trade and business related. You know, I'd read The Economist and the New York Times, and try to read things that would help advance my career. And it wasn't until my young adulthood, maybe my early 20s, that I was browsing through the bookstore. I'm not even sure what got me there. And I grabbed a book. I didn't know the author. It was called The Poet. It sounded like a good mystery. And I read it, and I thought it was, oh my God, I loved it. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and get more by this author. And I was single. I was working during the day and waitressing at night. Money was tight. So for me to spend tip dollars on paperbacks was, was kind of a big deal. So I bought the earlier Harry Bosch books. And then I started talking to some people about, I'm reading this. And then someone turned me on to Patricia Cornwell. And then The Firm got really big, and I read The Firm, and I thought it was so good. So then I read all of John Grisham's books. And when I first started writing, I had then had a lot of thrillers under my belt, and I started studying them and thought, that's what I'm gonna write, a thriller that backdrops the pharmaceutical industry. And that was the very first sort of big project that I worked on in my adulthood. And I did finish a manuscript that has gone out on wide submission twice, without any offers. So it's in my trunk. I often talk about my trunk and my trunk novels. There's a lot of stuff in there, but the thrillers in there as well.
Gotcha. So one day we're all going to read it, and it's going to blow us away, and it will be worth the wait.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice thing about trunk novels is sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can I want to say transmorph, but that's not the word. You can make them into something new. Whatever it was that wasn't working or maybe held it back, you can reconfigure it a bit, and it can go on to hopefully have new life. Or I've got one book that never went anywhere, but by God, I managed to farm out parts of it into 4 different books.
Yeah.
So it wasn't time wasted.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's never time wasted, because it's also, exploring those craft muscles, through the creation of all of those. But there are many that I've gone and I've taken. I'm like, I did a whole scene or chunk of scenes about this. I'm gonna pull that out and put it into the project that I'm working on now. So they do get kind of like Frankensteined in a way, and made into or borrowed from.